Hi, Laura. On Zoom.
Y'all think about when you prostrate. Going down and
And I'll put in a plug for our new 16 guideline meditation series that we started this morning. The first 16 guideline is humility. And so by prostrating, we're doing all of these things, showing respect, but also kind of humbling ourselves to be open to the teachings and what we can learn.
yeah, in this case, it's just.
Oh, we have a prostration question. Do you want to answer it real quick?
I'm sorry. So my question about prostrations is because I know, in different traditions they do the prostrations differently. And for example, I use prostrations a lot in my practice. I have for the last few years. And so, but in the tradition that I used to learn, they were taught to do it very slowly. But when I see them done here, it's like very fast.
Yeah, you don't want to stay in some circle of others, so it really is just a different,
Right.
what you're thinking about is different. So it's
Okay.
like, it's not a time to relax, it's a time to get enlightened for it to benefit all sentient beings. That's what I, is that's
Okay.
what I
Okay. Okay.
but, no harm.
One more kind of important, I think. Geshe-la says it's okay to prostrate with him, and I've seen people do it with you, and I just don't know, how do you feel about that? Because that's what it's all about.
As far as I'm concerned, absolutely nothing to do with me.
Save the entire universe.
Okay, that's important. It's still on, huh? Okay, so, yeah, it really has nothing to do with me. The tradition in the Tibetan, I've said that backwards. In the Tibetan tradition, it's customary to do it after the teacher because you're also showing respect for that teacher, and all that. Geshe-la prefers that not to be done, but everywhere else, that's what they'll do. Western teachers, I would always prostrate after Venerable Rabina, but, it's just about tradition, but it really doesn't have anything to do with me. So, I go with what you're comfortable with here. So you said Geshe Sampo, prefers the traditional way. So yeah, I mean, it's just, if you feel like you need help remembering the traditional way, then, you wait until after we sit down. Otherwise, you do it with us. I'm perfectly comfortable with people doing it with us. It makes me not feel so weird. up here. I never had to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and stand for prostrations.
Okay, trying headsets for the first time. We will start on page 34 in the Gold Prayer Book with the Shakyamuni Buddha mantra. Te ata om mune mune maha munae soha. Te ata om mune mune maha munae soha. Te ata om mune mune maha munae soha. And now on the same page, the Medicine Buddha stanza and mantra. Bhagawan, with equal compassion for all, whose name, when merely heard, dispels the suffering of the lower realms, dispeller of disease and the three poisons, I prostrate to Medicine Buddha lapis slide. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. Te ata om bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. And now still on page 34, the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. And now on the bottom of page 37, the Chenrezig and Green Tara, verses of praise and mantras. Not veiled by any fault, white in color, whose head a perfect Buddha crowns in light, gazing compassionately at all beings, to you, Chenrezig, all-seeing one, I prostrate. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Tara liberates from psychic existence. Tara liberates from the 8 fears. Ture liberates from all sickness. I prostrate to the liberator, Mother Tara. Om Tari Ture Soha. 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 And now back to page 34. Then we have the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings.
Good morning, folks at home. Hi. So what's the point of all that stuff we just did?
To prepare our minds to receive the teachings.
And what's one of those preparations? What is it doing for us? I don't understand the sign language yet, thanks.
It calms our mind.
Okay, so it can be calming, especially if you like the mantras or, the words have meaning to you, so it can kind of, okay, yeah, settle down. What else does it do? Yeah.
It reminds us that we do take refuge in the Buddha, and it also reminds us of a bodhicitta intention.
Yeah, so what's that bodhicitta intention? What's another way of saying that?
Altruism, the wish to benefit others.
What? Live your life for the sake of others. Yeah, so it's this, it's this, and the 4 immeasurables helps us with that as well, that, it's like we really want to recognize that all sentient beings, that there's a part of us, we're interconnected. So, it benefits ourselves and others if we just have that wish that they be happy and free from suffering. Yes, Andre, you may have to wait for a microphone.
Just a question I've always had, because I don't question it so much, I just do it, but why the 3 times or more? This over and
Okay,
over
I've
again?
heard this, I've heard different things about why we recite things 3 times. Like one is for body, speech, and mind, so like with prostrations or, anytime you're saying, like going for refuge or whatever, we usually use the prostration mudra. Some people in their daily practices actually do physical prostrations at the same time, and so that's for the body. And then your speech, you're using purified speech, when you say the words, and then you want to make sure, you think about the word. So that's the part for the mind. So, so it's sort of this acknowledgement that repetition is what helps us listen to it. Now the other alternative is to go extremely slowly when you say them and meditate after each line, so. But it's traditional to do body, speech, and, mind for the 3 jewels kind of thing too. So it's all. So what's that a sign of when you think, I meant it the first time, why do I have to say it the second and the third time? What's coming up for us in that moment?
Impatience.
Impatience. So there we go. So that's another opportunity for you to go get over yourself, be patient. I do it too. I know exactly what you mean, So anyway, but so these are also, as long as, all of these rituals help us if we take the opportunity to integrate this into our being, not just say a bunch of words, And of course, in the beginning, they don't have much meaning to you. So it's like learning. It's a process of kind of learning. What do they mean by that? What is it, do I relate to that? Do I not relate to it? Because after all, part of the Buddha's teaching is that we need to investigate. We need to ask why. We need to check up, as Lama Yeshe liked to say, so that we can check our experience against what the words say, all that kind of stuff, So this is one of those opportunities to do it, and we don't do it enough, We need to do this kind of thing kind of all day long, not this whole thing of prayer, But when you're getting ready to go someplace, when you get in the car, that can be your cue. Okay, I'm getting in this dangerous thing. I want to be mindful. I want to drive safely. I want to cause no one, I want to be aware. I want to focus on driving, not texting, not the music, not the, whatever. I want to take care to get there. And then when you stop and park your car, you think, why am I here? It's really helpful when you come home, if you've got family at home, to come home, to stop in your driveway and think, okay, shift gears. I'm ready to enter my home with my family. What mind do I want to bring with me, Do I have to bring the terrible day I just had in there with me? Do I have, what can I bring instead? Can I leave behind? You may want to talk about it later, but the first thing you want to do when you walk in is what, So you want to think about these things. When you've got a big meeting or something, you want to think before you go in, that and it's really nice to see what your habits are, like if your first thought before a meeting is, do I have to do this? You might need a little help with the motivation, of just kind of going, okay, well, this is what we got to do. I remember it used to just irritate me every time I go to a teaching with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and he'd change the translation of some verse I'd memorized. And I'd be going, are you kidding me? And then he actually we'd get updated prayer books. Yeah, again and again and again. So I found that very irritating. So fortunately, long time ago, like 20 years ago, I was at a retreat when he did this. One of the practices, one of the only practices I'd memorized at this point. And I said, just do it. Get over it. Just don't worry about it. Just, here's the teacher. He's telling you what's a better translation, go with it. And so for 20 years, I've been using that updated. And every time I think, wow, I really don't like this translation. But so what? You know, I understand more about why that he made that change. It's not in the books, though. We don't have to officially change it. But it's, but it's just so interesting to notice, to be aware of where our resistance is, where our heart is naturally open, because we want to, that good stuff where like we can just see, oh, I'm totally capable of caring about this other human being, of wishing them well, of being so happy or joyful when I see them, We want to go, oh, this is what I'm trying to cultivate, to be able to do this for anybody I see, So it's just, no matter what mood I'm in, all that kind of stuff. It's just that opportunity. I'm perfectly capable of doing it because I'm doing it right now, So it's just that reminder, And then when we're tight, we're resistant to what is, then that gives us the opportunity to look at, to be aware, oh, how does it feel in my body? Because I want to be aware of that so that the next time this appears in my body, I know that I might not be so reliable because my mind's hooked by something, So I want to really guard my speech, really guard my mind, I want to pause, step back and remind myself that this moment is not the be-all, end-all moment of our lives. This moment will be over quickly. So whatever those, kind of things that bubble up, these pauses and this reset can really help us have fewer regrets at the end of the day. So our purification practice becomes, a little less, repetitive. So what do we want to talk about today? Do we want to talk more about some equanimity for ourselves? Do we want to talk about the purification practice, the 4 potent powers? What are y'all in the mood for? I might not listen, I might listen. I don't know. Haven't decided yet.
I'd be personally interested in the purification practices.
Okay. Was that a me too? Me too, me 3?
Lots of nods of
Yeah,
heads.
I see another nod, All right, does that sound good to those of you in charge? Yeah, okay, all right. No network connection, so that one's not gonna work. No network. I think I figured this out. It's on my iPad. I'm looking at a file that's on my iPad. On my iPad. Ta-da! I found the right file. Okay. I must have 17 million duplicate copies of everything because I really don't know how this stuff works. Okay. So, I like your picture, John Castello, with your cute little hat. He has a smile. He's at home today. Very cute. Nice to see a smiling face. Hi, Patty. Hi, Hemant. Okay. I was stalling. So, 4 opponent powers. Purification. What does that mean? Can we purify? What does that mean? What does purify mean to you? Pour the bleach in the... What does that mean? Yes, Mark.
So just cleaning.
Just clean. Purification, too, is sort of this action, right? So I don't know why that's the translation term. I don't know Tibetan, I don't know Sanskrit, I don't know much. But one way to think about it is the action of purification. This is something that's recommended to do at the end of every day so that we don't have a huge stack. We just have today's stack, So it's about recognizing their actions of body, speech, and mind that we do, that we regret. That we kind of, oh, I wish I hadn't said that, or I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't rolled my eyes because they caught me, this kind of thing. Or if you have a lot of trouble with your own self-talk, you've been trashing yourself all day, you can think, oh, I didn't talk well to myself today. I wasn't very nice to myself. And I don't want to practice that habit because that's the kind of habit I'm trying to let go of, not just for myself, but when I speak to others, So any of these kinds of things. So 4 opponent powers are the actions recommended that we take with our mind, the mental actions, so that we will have sincere regret. It won't just be that kind of thing, oh, sorry, that kind of thing. When you bump into someone, but you don't really care. We usually mean it more if we manage to make them drop all their books or something. So, I'm sorry, these are all real life experiences. So, then to also generate, this real reliance on the teachings that say, hey, there's something you can do about this that will help motivate you to stop doing it, So if you're trying to work on yourself, as far as, trying to clean up your mind, clean up your speech, this is a way to help motivate yourself to do that without packing your suitcase full of guilt. It's not about feeling guilty. I have a little His Holiness said, guilt is looking into the past and saying, I did this and this and this and this, and I am a bad person. Regret is very simply recognizing, yes, indeed, I did this and this and this. But then you think, what can I do about it? You don't reify it, make it who you are. You don't identify, this is me, this terrible, bad person. It's just like, oh, these were regrettable actions. I regret it. What can I do about it? It's a huge difference. And so most of us kind of have to practice this difference, really think about shaking it off, not carrying it with us. And I find doing this practice really helps with that because you've done something sincere about it, So that's an important piece, is working on our sincerity. The other thing is one of the 4, so we've talked about relying on the Buddhist teachings, or on this practice, relying on the fact that we can change, and relying on the fact that we've got, that the other sentient beings are how we can make this change. So we're relying on our compassion for others, our interconnectedness, all that kind of stuff, because after all, it's somebody else that we regret our actions towards, Can be ourselves as well, not negating that. And then we resolve to try not to do it in the future for whatever length of time is realistic. So for some things, it might be the next meeting I'm at, I'm going to try to walk in with an open mind. Instead of that sneer and rolling the eyes. So, it might be for the next day, I'm going to practice patience with my speech. If you're like me, you can't do that and not be lying. So you have to go, for the next 5 hours, I will watch my speech. And then the next day you might go, okay, 6 hours, And then, so you just, this has to be realistic. Otherwise, you're just lying. It just doesn't matter. It's not that sincere resolve. And it's okay if it's something like, I resolve every hour to make this resolution again. We got to start where we are, But this is an important part of the practice. This is, that resolve. Then there's a remedy. The remedy can be anything. It can be an apology. It can be reciting the 4 measurables again, for a period of time till you hear it, that kind of thing. It can be meditating on why this is not a healthy habit. Blah, blah, blah. What am I trying to say? Tongue work. Recognizing the recognizing that we don't feel good when we do this, so we really want to stop doing it. Meditating on that, make it part of us. Go, oh, and I have to do that by really allowing myself to meditate on all these parts. So the regret, really kind of letting it in that I just hurt someone with that speech, or that expression, or that inaction, or that action, And I don't like that I did that. It feels bad. I don't like it when someone does it to me. It feels bad. And allow myself to feel that bad. That hurt. That's how I can have sincere regret. If I keep kind of part of myself saying, oh, it's no big deal, no big deal. That doesn't really help this part. Again, this is regret, not guilt. It's just acknowledging, oh yeah, I'm capable of doing that. Yep, I did it. Oops, I don't want to do it. I hurt someone. Then you might apologize. Because sometimes this happens in the moment, where you immediately go, why did I do that? Well, you can say, I'm sorry. I was thoughtless. I'm sorry I said that. Can we start again? Or like one of my favorites to work with is when I recognize that I'm not listening. Someone's talking to me and I'm not listening. And I just say, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. And I really want to hear what you say. So can you repeat it for me? So that helps with that, this desire to actually listen when I'm in a conversation with someone. And it also helps with the humility of just being able to say, I wasn't listening. I'm sorry, I get distracted. Whatever. But not just write that off and not worry about the fact that you didn't hear what they said and move on. You just reset. So those kinds of things, meditating on these things, helps us just really kind of take it on. Oh, I'd like to be a better person. I'm a good person, but I'd like to be a better person. I'd like to keep working on this, kind of attitude. So the remedy can be like an apology. It can be any of the practices you relate to. There's some traditional practices like doing Vajrasattva mantra recitation, which eventually, if you do it for a while, can mean something to you. In the beginning, it may just be a bunch of garbled syllables, which took me forever to learn. But, it's just a matter, so you can talk to Geshe-la about that. But it's just a matter of having in your mind, I'm doing this practice in order to really integrate this idea that I really would regret doing that and I don't want to do it again. As Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, if you don't want to be saying Vajrasattva all day long for the rest of your life, you might want to do something differently. So, just a thought. So anyway. So basically the 4 opponent powers, they're not always translated this way. I just find them an easy way to remember because they all start with the letter R, regret, reliance, remedy, resolve, And then, especially if you do this at the end of the day, I add a 5th, and that's rejoice. And rejoice about the stuff you did well that day. Because that's a better mind to go to sleep with. And also, if you need practice at that, if you're all self-haters, you need practice noticing through the day, oh, that was good. And if you have to, write it down so that that night you can remember, oh, I like the thought I just had. Oh, I smiled instead of frowned. I don't know, I don't know what your habits are. So it's just about, but we need, because we are not all that thing. That's the part about equanimity. If we're in the habit of only noticing all the mistakes we make, it's not an accurate mind. It's an exaggeration because we identify with it, don't we? Think of all the mistakes we make. I'm a bad person, just like it's always, I'm a bad person, bad person. It's not true. But we can only balance that view if we start noticing all the good qualities we have, the good moments of the day. All the things we take care of, all the things we're reliable about, all the things, on and on and on it goes. So with every activity, it's good to start with a positive motivation. So it's not things like, I'm a terrible person, so I want to do this, so I'll become a better person. We really don't want to identify with our mistakes. We also don't want to identify with our good stuff. We just want to have a balanced view. You're a self, you exist, time keeps passing, we make mistakes, we do things right, we have successes, all of that, blah, 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 go on it goes. None of these moments define us, whether they're good or bad, or indifferent. So this isn't about building ourselves up or tearing ourselves down. It's about acknowledging mistakes and resolving to try to do better. And then with rejoicing, it's about acknowledging the good stuff, patting ourselves on the back, so we repeat it. That makes sense? Questions about that? Yeah.
We have a question on Zoom from a student who would like for you to elaborate more on what reliance means.
Okay, so reliance. Let me look at my cheat sheet here. Make sure I remember. Okay, so the example that they often give in the teachings is, say you drink some poison, okay? Okay, that's not where it starts. I started the story in the middle. Let's change that. So say you found out about a doctor in Timbuktu. I'm literally reading this off my page. And somebody comes to you and says, I just met this doctor who can cure every type of poison. And you're going, yeah, whatever. You don't care. You don't really listen. And then you drink some poison. And then what are you thinking? Where's that doctor? Take me to that doctor now. I need to go to that doctor. You don't sit around going, oh, I should have remembered that doctor's name. You don't waste that time. You just fix that problem, life, trying to find out who it is, and you go fix it. And then when you find the doctor and you go to the doctor, do you listen? Yeah, you betcha. You do what they recommend. Otherwise, you're not going to cure yourself of the poison, right? That's reliance. So you take someone, in this case, you're taking it on the advice of someone else who knows about this person, but you're in desperate need, so you give it a go. But this is what reliance is. This is suggested in the Buddha's teachings as a way to help us move on from our mistakes and do better. That's the reliance. Instead of saying, oh, you don't have to tell me what to do, I know what to do, da-da-da-da-da, but knowing how well is your own advice doing for you so far? It's that kind of thing. If you're torn up with guilt or really have a terrible self-image, maybe that's not working. Maybe you want to try something else. And in the beginning, it may feel like just words. But over time, you'll start to see that you're changing. Those words are having an effect on at least the number of times you pause before just saying something, in a knee-jerk reactive way, so your speech improves. Or you just pause and you don't say anything. Are you shocked at that thought, Susie? No, I'm shocked I did it. See? But that's the thing, so we can change. That's part of the reliance. It's understanding the teachings say our mind, which is the driver of our actions of body and speech, is changeable. It's not fixed. It's not this, you're not just born with a habit and that you're going to die with that habit and there's just nothing you can do about it. It's not true. But you may have to find that out. But you can already know it's not true by all the things you've already learned in your life, all the habits you've already changed in your life. So if you have trouble with that, you need to find examples. If I learned anything in this life, have I changed any habits in this life? I bet when you were a kid, you ran out of the house without brushing your teeth. I bet you don't do that very often now. I used to hide behind the door at the doctor's office when it was shot time. Actually, it was mostly when they did that blood test where they took a razor blade to your finger. They did that to me every time I went to the doctor when I was a child because I was so pale. They kept saying, you're anemic, you're anemic, you're anemic. My mother was anemic, so I guess there was some logical reason for that. So I developed this habit, and even when I was 14 years old, I got very sick. I'm from Louisiana, but I was on a trip through North Carolina, and I got some really bizarre infection in the back of my throat. We stopped at this little hospital in this little town, and he goes, God, I have to look this up. I haven't seen this in 40 years. He looks it up. He goes, oh, but you need penicillin shots, and you need some sort of nasal spray, and you have to use it for 10 days. And so, I screamed bloody murder about the shots. I was 14, My mother was so embarrassed, But my father went, this is sometimes what we love about our parents. My father said, don't you hurt my daughter. Don't you have pills instead of those shot things. Yeah, so that just dragged my habit on. But anyway, but he was absolutely right. We had to go to 3 towns before we found those drops, the nasal drops, whatever, But it took 10 days, and I was really sick. I couldn't even put a straw in my mouth, it was, But anyway, but this is, when we don't know what we're doing, we need help. And then to actually receive the help, we need to rely on what we're being told. We need to follow through. So, so if it's unfamiliar, sometimes it just helps to set aside your doubt and just try it. And don't just try it once, you try it again and again and again and see. So reliance is really about having a little bit of trust in whatever you're relying on. So if you have trust in the teachings in other areas, you can use that trust as well. I'll give this a try too. I have found that sitting quietly for a while does calm my mind some. I have found that wishing others to be happy is just good for the way I feel. Whatever it is, if you've had some success with something, then you can use that success as a jumping off board for trying something new. And then we rely on, there's this idea behind it that it's through this that we're also relying on sentient beings. We've done something to hurt them, and now we're doing something to try to repair that. So you're relying on them again. To do what this time? Sorry, I must be wrong. So, which is good, so make sure you have that recording stop every time I'm wrong. So, okay, so when where do our good qualities come from? Well, think about it. Go ahead, Susie.
I think we need to rely on others to give us a chance to practice, to make those good qualities happen.
Can you develop a good quality without other people? When's the last time you were patient without other people around? When's the last time you were generous without it involving other people? When was the last time you were kind without it involving other people? Do you see the relationship there? Give Kim, there's someone in the back. Whose name I've forgotten. Can you tell me your name again?
Martin. Whenever anybody asks me my name, I always have to think about
Marcus.
it. Martin.
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 Yeah, Martin.
But Martin. Okay. Hi, Martin.
Hi. I think that, yes, we do learn good qualities of other people, but we also have tendencies towards good tendencies
Where did we learn them?
In my own case, for generosity, it's feeding animals.
Oh, so they're not sentient beings and they can't teach you anything?
Well, I suppose in that case, yes.
Yeah, yep. There's always some sentient being around. Either someone taught us some certain habits, like our parents said, oh, you have to learn how to share, But we can't develop the habit of sharing without other people. It can be animals, whatever. So that's the distinction, is that, yes, we can, our parents can teach us something, or our friends will teach us, they model behavior, all that kind of stuff. But to actually practice it and develop it and make a habit out of it, we need sentient beings. That's where they come from. That's where they're developed. So we're relying on that as well to change these habits. We need them in order to change these habits. We won't know we've changed these habits without them. So that's the other part of reliance. So we're relying on the teachings or some instruction that we have a confidence in, and then we develop that confidence in, and then we're relying on sentient beings and our compassion for them, because genuine regret comes out of compassion for the suffering of the other person. So you see how they're all interconnected? Compassion. It's kind of cool. I think the Buddha was on to something. So does that help, whoever asked the question?
I have a comment, kind of playing devil's advocate here.
Oh,
okay.
good.
So, and yes, the student says yes, thank you.
Okay.
And so you said, can you think of a time when you were patient when it didn't involve another sentient being? Well, we live in this day of technology, and of course technology is always like, oh my gosh, and then you get all mad and not patient. So, but you're not really getting mad at the computer. So it's really
trying to get mad at the computer.
is it really ourselves that we're not being patient with?
Well, the definition of patience really is that you accept the suffering that arises in your mind when something's trying to harm you, okay? Computers really aren't trying to harm us, even though we really think they are. And they're, confusing us on purpose, all that kind of stuff, right? But you really don't develop patience with a machine. it might be an opportunity to practice patience, but you don't really care. You care how the computer feels about you? No. So what do you care about?
Well, not developing this negative quality of being impatient.
Yeah, and who's that about?
Me or
You
yourself,
and
yes.
other people, other sentient beings. So, so we may, our motivation for wanting to develop some patience has more to do with this understanding that this suffering mental habit carries over to others. I mean, how often have you been yelling at your computer and then your kid comes in the room and you go, you're not so nice, So it's this, carryover effect, And that affects you, they'll know, oh, no problem, Mom, bump. And then you want to smack the kid going, yeah, thanks for making me feel stupid, because it's all about us. So, but yeah, I think there is, and I tell you, purifying your impatience with your computer doesn't do much. So, you need to fess up to the fact that sometimes that impatience doesn't just carry, it's not just towards inanimate objects. Now, if you've gone from being very impatient with people to only being impatient with things, that's probably the direction you want to go. But eventually you're going to have to let that go too, for just the reason you said, because you don't want to practice that mind. Yeah.
So for myself, I think my reliance and my reason for being here today is I try to rely on the Buddha, and as my example, I try and rely on the teachings that I read about to learn better, which again, both things come from somewhere else. We being human beings, we're social animals. But for me, what I'm finding is one of the most important things is the Sangha, the gathering of other people of like minds. It gets really lonely when you don't know other people that think, along the Buddhist lines. And so my reliance is becoming more and more on why I'm here today, trying to be around other like-minded people, the Sangha.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Because I do think one of the things that we get from being in community, showing up in person occasionally, all that, and not picking on you guys, but, maybe a little, but is the fact that you can talk to other people about this stuff and not have them go, oh, don't worry about it, it's no big deal, usually you're a nice person, so what, just let it go, da-da-da. That doesn't help. What we want is a friend, a Dharma friend, who can go, oh, okay, this is what I do when I'm realize I've gotten into this habit again, and I do this, And we take ourselves, our desire to change the way our body, speech, and mind work for the better, seriously. So it does help to have that kind of thing. And sometimes, and it doesn't have to be a Buddhist friend, it just has to be someone who's able to really hear your sincere desire to change your mind and will help you with it instead of keep dismissing your worry about it. Does that make sense? So yes, that's another kind of reliance. You have to wait for the microphone. You got to be patient.
One of the things that Robina said, I heard her say, which really helped me a lot with this whole thing of purification. She says that the power is not in the four opponent powers. She said that the power is in our sincerity.
It's in our mind.
Yeah. How much do we want to regret? I like beginning with the power of regret, because I feel like if you can't regret what you've done, what's the point in doing the rest of them?
Yeah, well, that's why we start with regret.
Yeah, right. And so, and that means that we got to own up to it. We got to look at it and say, yes, I actually did these things, and that's painful, but we got to do it, and then we can begin to actually have the regret, and then we can go to reliance, and then the remedy, which I believe is like actually, okay, the Buddha said this works. I'm going to rely upon the Buddhist methods. I'm going to use the methods to see if it really works.
Yeah.
Right now I'm at that place to see if it works, right? And so I'm going to do that. And then resolve, I think, is very important because, and I remember she said that when you make the promise, you make the promise to yourself, not to the Buddhas.
No, that's correct. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
This is all about your mind. The power of your purification practice is dependent on your mind, the power of your mind. So in the beginning, it might not be very powerful, because you got to work a little harder on that sincerity. You have to work a little harder on the resolve or whatever. But I mean, it's over time, it becomes, the more powerful our mind is. And when you think about your ability for like self-loathing, maybe that's a really strong habit. We can develop strong minds, So it's really about, keep doing it, and that resolve not to do it again, and all this stuff. Again, you want to be careful not to use purification practice to beat yourself up, if that's one of your habits. If one of your one of your habits is to cut yourself way too much slack, then you may need to use your purification practice as a little push. You have to know where you are, If you're going through very tough times, you want your purification practice to be gentle. Got lots of stressors, you want to use purification as a way, well, I hope I'm exhausting all the negative karma that's ripening right now. And now I'll try to purify it. I try to imagine whatever I might have done, that would create the cause for this kind of suffering, that kind of thing. So there are many ways to develop this practice. So does everybody understand the basic steps? Yes.
Good morning. I have a question. Just if you could repeat what you said the definition of patience was. What I have is accept the suffering that arrives in your mind.
When someone's trying to harm you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it's that idea that patience, we want to keep in mind how often someone's really trying to harm you. Because we're often impatient in situations where no one's trying to harm you. And we want to remember that. This person's not being selfish to you, if they cut in line or something. They're not trying to harm you. What are they trying to do? They're helping themselves. It's not about you at all. So sometimes we have to really accept that reality, that this isn't about you. It's so why do we even have to practice patience then? Well, we have to practice patience with our self-cherishing feeling ignored. Yeah. Thanks, Kim, for your diligent work.
What if you're, so sorry, what if the issue is self-harm?
I'm sorry, I did not. What if your issues is self-harming? But sort of, those are the kinds of things. First of all, we need help with that, right? We need professional help with that, with some very specific tools. In our mind, we need to remember that this is, no matter how much it may seem like you feel better if you do it, it is an attack, a self-attack. It's just like if you did it to someone else. Would you do that to your best friend? Yeah, so you really want to correct your perspective, but also you want to rely on what a professional tells you are behaviors that will help with this. Because there's no question that, one of the Buddha's things is you have to take care of yourself. So it is not selfish to take care of yourself, and perhaps some of our habits that we think take care don't take care. Because we create these, we think that sometimes being angry at someone is going to protect us from them or from what they want to do. It's not true. The anger might give us some energy to declare, I don't like what you've just said to me, to speak up, but it's the anger itself is the wish to harm. So, you want to look at that, because we mix these things up all the time. What we think is helpful is actually harmful. What we think is protective is actually is the opposite of that. It's like, have you ever just been hurt, emotionally hurt, and you realize you kind of put up guardrails? Does it work? Do you not get hurt anymore? It doesn't even work. And you're guaranteeing that you won't have any heart stuff come in, So it's a totally ineffective method. We just keep hoping it'll work this time, So what we need to do is rely, again, on the teachings that say, no, opening your heart actually makes you hurt less. Now, you have to practice that to find out if it's true. Yeah.
Putting together what Andre was saying and you about relying on teachings, and the gentleman in the back about relying on Dharma friends, the value of that. Venerable Robina talks about how it's okay for a while to shop around, to look at different theories and philosophies that help you to resolve your issues and problems and be a better person. But ultimately, you need to choose one that makes the most sense to you and rely on that. Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place and not going to be helped at all.
Well, you won't be on a path. That's the thing about following one teaching, finding one that suits you, and then actually putting it into practice. You don't put it all into practice all at once or something, when you set things aside going, no, not ready for that, whatever. But if you don't, if you continue to just shop around, let's try this technique and this technique, you're not actually developing any of them. You're not giving it time. So none of them are going to be very effective. And so you keep coming back to going, well, they don't know what they're talking about, and I do. I know what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. Most of the time we can kind of have confidence that we show up in a place like this because we accept the fact that we don't necessarily know what we're doing. And so we're seeking some guidance, and that's wisdom. Now, blind guidance isn't so good. We do need to, does this make sense? When I do it over time, am I feeling better, Purification's not fun, like you said. Having that sincere regret's kind of icky, But if doing the practice, making the resolve, and you feel better afterwards, that's the point. That's not, and then if you, even better, actually change some of your behavior, But we need support. We need, all the kind of support we can find. But it has to kind of be integrated, in the same direction. Like I went to an ACOA group, that's Adult Children of Alcoholics. I don't even think they have them anymore. But I went to the same group with the same people for 12 years, every Thursday. Changed my life. And then I had to go, okay, that's enough about me. Now I need to find something, where I can, I've kind of taken care of myself. And we need that. We need to validate our suffering. We need to find, ways not to act out from that place, all those kinds of things. Well, Buddhism helped me do that even more, and then also kind of go, oh, you mean there are other people on the planet that I might want to make friends with? So anyway. Yeah, Susie. This is an example of nice behavior. See what Susie did? What did Susie do? She met her halfway. Go, Susie.
Could you please talk a little bit about karma in relation to purification and practices, if you feel you want to?
Well, you know, there's sort of like no fast explanation of karma. So, y'all talk about karma much? Are people familiar with the topic?
Never enough.
Well, I know that. I just want to make sure, because it's kind of a big topic. So if you're new, this little short explanation's not going to cover it, okay? So karma is this idea of cause and effect. It's just a shorthand way that we refer to it, that everything that is produced has a cause, and everything that is produced becomes a cause of something else, So one of the things that is impermanent that's produced is our moments of mind. Now, they're not physical, they're not, but one moment of mind creates causes the next moment of mind, which causes the next moment of mind, blah, 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 So this is why habits are important. When you're trying to break a habit, you need to pause and go, okay, I'm not going to repeat that. Just, if you're being impatient, you kind of go, okay, I'm going to pause. Not going to follow this mind anymore, So that may just mean, okay, so I'll just shut up, blah, blah, blah. Well, all these things create tendencies, and sometimes referred to as like seeds on our mind stream, And karma is definite in that actions that are negative that we do will have a negative result in some time in the future. So one of the things that's taught is that if you get in an argument with someone, well, this isn't the first time, that we repeat activities. Like, I was born in a really angry family. And now that I look back, I'm not really surprised. So, we have habits and tendencies. We bring them, according to Buddhism, you bring them from previous lives, that's why children are different in the same family, we just already have some habits. So when a negative thing or a positive thing, we also have positive things. We have lots of good conditions, right? That all comes from our positive actions. That's a positive karma ripening. When it ripens, that ceases. You've exhausted that seed, So when you get in an argument with somebody, or somebody insults you or something, that little seed that because you insulted somebody way back when, and now it's ripened and now you're being insulted. Now you can practice that tendency by doing what? Huh? Someone say loud so I can repeat it.
If you keep it going by getting mad at them, it just keeps going.
Yeah, so then you turn around and insult them back, right? Okay, so that just keeps that habit going, right? The alternative is to say, well, I bet you I've done this to someone else, maybe even this very person in some previous life, Well, I don't want this to happen again, so I'm not going to insult them back. And then tonight, I'm going to think about this in purification practice that, I've had the habit of insulting people, and I don't like it when it happens to me. And try to generate that regret for when you've done it to someone else. And then you resolve to try to do it better, I'm going to watch my speech and not say mean things to someone else. That purifies the tendency. It makes it less powerful. And eventually, you do that enough, you may give up that habit. Won't be that, you might meet certain conditions where it just comes right back up, but you're now developing a habit to refrain from being insulting. Okay, so where was I going with this? What was it? What do you want me to? Yeah. So where do you want me to? What do you want me to connect?
How long purification lasts? Does it purify? Well, you know, in some of the practices, they say you're purifying everything that you've ever done.
Yeah.
And that's so hard for me as a Westerner to believe.
Well, and it's not true. It's about how powerful your mind is. A bodhisattva, if the bodhisattva is purifying something, not that they need anything to purify probably, because they probably got their speech under control, you know, and their actions under control. But if they didn't, you know, their mind's really powerful, right? So it purifies a lot, you know? So it's just, it's dependent on how sincere your regret is, how sincere your mind is when you're doing the remedy, how sincere your mind is when you're doing the reliance, and how sincere your mind was with the resolve. And yep, you just hold on to the microphone.
Well, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has been known to say you're crazy if you
don't
do this
purification
every day,
Yep,
every
absolutely.
night or whatever.
Yep, because then you're just purifying today. You know, now what they say when you're doing this practice is when you're having regret for some action you did, so say insulting someone, you go, and I bet you this isn't the only time I've done that. I've probably done this again and again and again. And guess what? If I believe in past and future lives, and I've been doing it for, you know, since beginningless time. So you really want to include that, you know? And and you might even think, and I'm kind of sick of having this regret. You know, I really would like to just not do that anymore. So for the next week, I'm not going to insult anybody. How long does it last? Well, if you never do it again, it's been very successful. Because this is the mind. Nobody's up there cleaning out your karma seed bin. It's just you. Nobody puts the seeds there except you. Nobody takes them out except you. You know, so it depends on you. Now, bodhisattvas, developing the uncontrived mind that wants to benefit all sentient beings, wants to become enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings, that becomes a main mind, so it influences every thought that they have. It comes up with everything, okay? They purify eons in that moment when they develop that uncontrived bodhicitta. Every time you meditate on emptiness, that's a great purifier. When you have that direct realization of emptiness, knowing reality exactly what it is, for you new students, don't worry about this. You know, that purifies it all. That's how we get liberated. And it has nothing to do with taking all those seeds out and washing them. It has to do with the fact that you have a true cessation, you will never do them again.
They seem to talk about burning seeds?
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things, the differences between purification, when it's effective, burns the seeds so they cannot cause a result. But when you're liberated, they're just not there. The imprints are there, and that's why you cannot enlighten yet. But that's a much bigger topic, Susan.
But thank you. No, I didn't want to go that far.
Yeah. So, okay, so now who's confused? I have no idea if I answered that question. It kind of.
Thank you.
You know.
Thank you.
But this is one of the ways that, like when you hear people say they want to clean up their karma, this is what they're referring to, is that they want this cause and effect thing. They want to interrupt that causing of things so that they no longer have this effect. So, and this is why rejoicing, we really can find things to rejoice about, because every pleasant thing you experience is a positive action ripening. So something good you did in the past is ripening in some pleasant experience now. Every flower that you appreciate, every sunset that you appreciate, every cool breeze that you kind of go, oh, isn't that nice? All those, oh, isn't that nice?
this is the result of something positive you did. Sometimes.
I have a question myself.
Okay.
So, living in the United States and enjoying so many blessings that we have here, like, what we think is clean water and clean air, and people who are not bombing my house, and
right.
We could go on, or I could go on. So I often think, man, I'm just using up all my good karma. I'm just blowing it. Even though, I'm trying to be a good Buddhist or a good student of Buddhism, and I'm trying to working with my mind, but I feel like this is a great life, but boy, I'm going to have an empty good karma can at the end of it.
That's what happens in the God realms, just since you know what those are. Okay, so what do we do with that? What does the teaching say about our good conditions? Go, Chris.
Do they let us help people more? Is that that's the thing we have to take advantage of.
That's right.
Yeah.
These are the conditions that make our life meaningful if we use them that way. If we take our good condition and not just bask in the glory of leisure and opportunity, but actually use them to help others. This doesn't mean we give all our money away because we need it. We also need it. So we have to have self-care and generosity. We need to recognize that we are a mixed bag. You could look at every day when you do this purification practice and then you do the rejoicing. You see, I'm kind of a mixed bag. I do some things nicely, I do some things not so nicely, blah, blah, blah. Well, the karma that's ripening in this life might not ripen in the next life. All the people who are born in war zones right now or areas of famine and all that, it's just what ripened in this life. It doesn't mean they've never done anything good. You can't judge people by their conditions right now. You can judge, it's just what, it's like every time something goes wrong for you, okay, so some negative karma is ripening. Everything that goes good, some positive karma is ripening. But it doesn't tell you the measure of anybody. It's the past, first of all. So it's not really a measure of anything. So judging people who live in these horrible conditions is just like, oh man, I wonder what they did in the past. I'm sure you've done it too. It's just not ripening in this life. That's how complex karma is. It's vast. We're talking about eons of actions that are ripening, from life to life. And sometimes, it's sort of almost luck, but that's not really a word you use in Buddhism. But what's going to ripen in this life is kind of determined at the moment of death of your last life. That's not the sum measure of who you were in your last life. So those of us in good conditions, this is the perfect time to develop our spiritual path. Because we can. We have leisure time. We have resources, We're not just trying to survive. That's a very difficult time to work with your mind. What's wonderful is we have examples of people who managed to do that, even in those horrible conditions. We can be that person too. But we have good conditions, so we want to use them to develop our hearts and minds. So we take advantage of that and not just frying our mind on, whatever. My personal one this weekend was ice cream. I was given 3 pints of ice cream for a belated birthday. Are they existent? No. So, sometimes they're just plain stupid. There we go. That's not making a good use of my good conditions at all. That's a good action to purify. Because ice cream, sugar makes me sick. So how well could I prepare for today with my mind going, it's not a good move. we do this, don't we? We waste our time, we use it meaningfully. We waste our time, we use it meaningfully. We just want to purify the wasted time and resolve to try to do better. We also need, just in case I can't leave this part out because it's my favorite power, there's also the power of relinquishment. We need rest. So it's not like we want to go, we have, that third quality of equanimity where we're just sort of indifferent. We don't want to be indifferent to our needs. We also need to rest. We need to restore ourselves. We have to take that. That's making our life, that's using our good conditions in a way to be able to keep going. Making sense? Yes.
Gesla often talks about how it's positive to feel positive about doing something positive.
Right.
And I've found recently that sometimes I think about that when I'm in the middle of purification and I'm in the middle of like doing the remedy. And thinking about that really juices it, because it's like I'm doing the remedy, I'm doing the penance, as we used to say in confession in the Catholic Church, but I'm not feeling bad. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm really doing something wonderful for myself. So it really juices it to think about that when I'm in the middle of the practice.
Yeah. And then when you rejoice, and the fifth R, you rejoice that you just did purification. If you have nothing else on your list, that could be the first thing, but find something else, but it's true. It's like, that's how I survived Nunes, Nunes is a practice where you do like 1 billion prostrations. I'm exaggerating. You do prostrations all day, and you do all these Tara practices, to purify, and I did 16 days of it, and so at every session, so 4 sessions a day, so how much is that? 4 times, how many days? 16. 64, so I purified like 64 years. I was only, 40, but 47, I was 47 or 48, something like that. But, I literally, each session was, 1971, 1972, 1973. But it felt it was really powerful because of that mind, of just going, this is my opportunity to regret it. It's a good thing to regret negative actions. It is not a good thing to pack your suitcase with it. We don't need guilt, but we need to regret and try to do better and let it go. Move forward. When we catch ourselves, like I had really worked hard on being a nice driver, being not just a nice driver, because I'm a pretty good driver, but I was an angry, I just get pissed off at people when they do stupid, crazy things, And I really got better at it. And then, I would lose it occasionally, as Jill knows. She heard, I was on the phone one time when I lost it. So, and I was coming here. It was just totally embarrassing, everything about it. So, I know, you're very kind. Yep. But then I moved to Florida, and I'm right back at that person. So I have to do some more work. So anyway. So I haven't purified it, when you were asking about, because it still arises. But it doesn't mean I haven't purified the past actions of doing it. I have, It's just I haven't eliminated the tendency, And I'm feeding it now because of my fears in Florida driving. So I need to go, you're not doing yourself any favors, and work on that. Because I find that if you do, because you relax more, then you're an even better driver. So, that's my theory on that. Okay. Any announcements today?
You can use this mic, David. Annalise, you have one?
Yes, face the camera back there. I see it. I'm the project manager for our renovation project, so I just wanted to bring you up to date on it. You've probably noticed that our former office and kitchen are empty because the volunteers got together and took out all the cabinets and the sink, and we hauled them to Habitat and so on. So that's the start of our project here in the building. And what you can't see is that our contractor, Quality Builders, has ordered all the special things like doors and windows that we need, and they're on the way, and they're likely to arrive in the next few days, and then actual work might start in the building this next week. So that would mean the cabinet maker in their shop would start building our cabinets, and the contractor would be here cutting out drywall and putting in openings and so on. And we think the effort will take about 2 months. Now, meantime, Robbie and I are also acting as the fundraisers for the project, so let me switch to that. We've set a goal, the board set a goal of trying to raise $70,000 to help fund the project and then use some funds we also had on hand beforehand. So things are going very well. Major donors have come forward, and we've actually raised $40,000. It's in the bank. And so I wanted to talk about the part you might play in case you would like to make a donation. On our website, there's a donate button up at the upper right. And when you click on that, it opens up a little window, and there's a place to specify a donation. And also there's a drop-down box where one of the selections is, the exact wording is, Special Fundraising 2024 Renovations. So if you would, please select that so we know to put your gift in the right category. And you can use credit card or bank transfer from there, or you could write a check and put it in the plastic box right out back of Kadampa here, and it would all be very much appreciated. We're hoping over the next couple of months to raise the rest of the money to come up to the $70,000 total. And so thank you very much for considering a donation and helping create good karma for yourself in the future by being generous. And we're likely to see the results of it just in the next couple of months here when we have a nice new kitchen. We actually have, over in the classroom building right now, we have a stove, which this center has never had. We have a dishwasher, which this center has never had. And so we're going to have some real countertops and cabinets and so on. We'll have a real kitchen, and we're looking forward to a lot of social events here. And Geshe Gellick has been urging us to get with it and get this done. I never before in my life had him sit down and look right at me and say, I really hope you'll get this project going. Because he has a lot of Tibetan friends. He'd like to have cooking things here for us, and knows that many members of our center here would like to cook and prepare food and have more social events. And retreats, yes, there was a retreat idea for this fall where people would actually be here at the center all day long, from early morning till dark, and they were going to have to be fed, and it was decided that we just couldn't do it because there's no way to cook for them. But we will have a way once we get this project done.
And so say that with enthusiasm. You can stay here all day long and meditate and still be fed.
That is right. So, yes, so the details of that, as I understood it, were they would arrive by 6 a.m. and they would be here all day until at least 8 p.m. and they would be in a retreat, and they would only go home to sleep, and then they would come right back the next day for 7 days in a row.
That's using
Yes.
our good conditions.
Imagine that we have a set of members who would like to do that, are willing to do that, and are so dedicated to do that.
Yay!
They are. Yeah, they are.
And cook.
And-
Hopefully those are the volunteers.
And some volunteers would be cooking for them. Yes, indeed. So anyway, thank you very much. That's the end of my announcement.
I'm Elise, and I'd like to remind everyone that this coming Saturday night, September 7, is a wonderful opportunity. We have movie night. The movie is a gorgeous documentary called Wheel of Time. It's about a pilgrimage, a Kalachakra pilgrimage to Bodh Gaya. I think it was in 2002, and it's really beautiful. You get to see all the pilgrims coming from far and how they feed the thousands of people that are there. And there's a little bit about the Kalachakra Sand Mandala. There's also a segment about a pilgrimage to Mount Kailash, circumambulating that. And it's really gorgeous and amazing. So I highly urge you to come and watch this together. We're hoping that Geshe Sengpo will be able to attend also to respond to any questions we might have about sand mandalas or rituals or anything that we might want to ask him about. So that's this coming Saturday night. Film starts promptly at 7. Hope to see you. And this also is an introduction to the fact that we have the incredible blessing, the opportunity to see 2 more Sand Mandala events in person in September. Now, we've kind of gotten used to the privilege of having Sand Mandalas around here because we just have the amazing fortune of having one of the few monks in the world who's qualified to create and monitor the making of Sand Mandala. That's our own Geshe Sengpo. And he will be doing a Sand Mandala at Elon University next week, the 13th through the 11th to the 13th at Elon, which is just a 1-hour drive away. Now, I know it's hard for people, even though it's just an hour away, to get there. If you can, it's really a beautiful thing to attend. So many blessings and opportunities. But there will be another one right at our local Meredith College the last week of September 25, 26, 27. The details of where and time and all of that is on our website. So please don't miss this opportunity. Just because we have the blessing of it being easy for us to see it, don't take it for granted. And so I highly urge you to check that out. Thank you.
Our pep rally. So, that all the announcements? And so things like this movie night are a good way to broaden your Sangha feeling, of community, and our potluck, which Sunday is it? The last Sunday?
No, not the last always. It's the 4th Sunday. Sometimes there's a 5th Sunday.
Yes,
so
very
4th Sunday
of the
of
calendar,
month.
but yeah, but those kinds of things are helpful, and all that kind of stuff. I think that's it. So we're going to take all this merit that we just created by, considering the teachings, thinking about the teachings, thinking about nice thoughts about doing better and nice thoughts about what we already do, and we're going to dedicate it to the benefit of others.
We'll do the dedication verses from Master Shantideva on page 246 in the Gold Prayer Book. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And now on page 244, the long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Page 245, the long life prayer for Khyentse Rinpoche Jetsun Lobsang Delik, the one who mastered his speech at a very young age, the one with great patience who received the name Awatari, the one with great precision who spread the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa on bliss and void, Lama, ornament of the yellow hat tradition, please remain until samsara ends. And now inside the back cover of the gold prayer book, we have the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And now on the inside front cover, the prayers, long life prayers for Geshe Gelek and Geshe Sangpo. Supreme Guide, you lead us on the many paths of virtue. A shining sun, you give us the best of excellent explanations. Supreme virtuous friend, you are a constant Dharma companion. Lama who has renounced fame, may you ever remain. And Geshe Sangpo? You who have steadfast imprints of virtuous qualities and keep the instructions of the glorious Guru in your heart. You who pass day and night with noble activities, great virtuous friend, may you have a very long life. And now to benefit all beings, 7 green Tara mantras. Om Tari Tu Tari Ture Soha. 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 Om Tari Tu Tari Ture Soha.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you, everyone online. We'll see you next time.